and welcome to Central Florida Salute YouTube once again from the Eagles, Area 4273 in beautiful Okahumpka, what there is of it. And I have a special guest who is a Army veteran. His name is Jim Gordon. He is a helicopter pilot, and he's got quite the story too. Jim, welcome to Salute.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you here. You were a chief warrant officer, and you were in 67 to 68, correct?
Correct.
Tell us a little about Jim Gordon. Where are you from originally, Jim?
Raised in New England, in Rhode Island, and then Florida from there on out, from about 10 years old
Well, we're
on.
pretty close. I'm from Connecticut, you know.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You don't have that Boston, huh?
No, that's you guys.
Yeah.
Actually, in Connecticut, you have the New York over here.
Yep.
And you have the Boston over here.
Yeah.
But if you were an actual Connecticut nutmegger, or whatever we call us, I don't know. But we don't have that. You know the thing we have is we say idea.
Oh, yeah,
idea.
there you go. I used to say that.
Yeah, we put an R that's not there.
Yep,
But anyway, that's enough of that.
not unusual.
No. So tell you were from high school. Where'd you go to school? And
Went to school in South Florida, graduated from Stranahan High School in South Florida, and essentially got involved with as many things as I could. I wound up in a couple of water ski shows down
Really?
there. Yeah. And
I thought of doing that, but I can't swim.
well, you wear a preserve, you know.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me. But anyway, school in South Florida, went to Lakeville, couple of years of community college, and the Army came out with this program for warrant officer helicopter pilots, and so you take the tests before, and if you pass, you go, which we did.
Let me ask you: were you drafted or you enlisted?
I enlisted,
Okay.
and but I was young and stupid.
Oh, we all were that.
Yeah, I think we all were, yeah. But so anyway, I wanted to fly. I spent every dollar that I had renting airplanes and flying, and the bug was there. And so this was an actual wonderful opportunity for me to proceed. So anyway, joined the Army and went to basic training and flight school with a couple of dear friends that are still dear friends. Went to Vietnam together and wound up flying Slicks, which is the troop-carrying helicopters, for about 6 months. And then transitioned into the gunships, which were a little more exciting for me anyway. They never called the guns out unless there was something to do. And it was a couple of little side effects here. I'd been in country maybe 10 days, and I was out flying a mission in a Slick troop carrier, and we were getting hit, and you can feel it in the airframe when you're hit. And so back in the tent that night, the crew chief came in and he said, "Sir, I've got a souvenir for you." And it was a tracer round that had gone into the fuel tank and put itself out in the tank.
Whoa.
And I said, "This is going to be a long year."
Wow.
So, but, as an aside, any helicopter pilot in Vietnam during that time, 67 and 68, in I Corps with the 1st Cav, have stories that you could talk all day on.
Yeah, I'm sure. Because those were the big years, 67, 68, 69. Those were the big years in Vietnam.
Yep.
It started winding down around 70, 71. And, of course, it ended in 75. But that was the big year. You were in the thick of it.
There were quite a few little instances that open your eyes. And so, we just, people thought we were brave. We weren't. We were just doing our job. And the people on the ground said, "I would never get up and fly in one of those things. You're just a target."
Jim, people who do their job are heroes.
Well,
That's my opinion, brother.
well, I appreciate that. But we were Phil had referred to the island, Gilligan's Island, where they destroyed a lot of helicopters.
I got to interrupt you here because you talk about Phil. In a past show, we had one of your friends on here, Phil Iron, and he talked about his experience in Vietnam. And I understand the two of you are pretty good friends.
Very close.
And he told you to come down. We're filming it the same day as we did with Phil, but this will not air at the same time.
Okay.
So I just wanted to.
I'm glad you tied that gap.
Okay.
Anyway, just as a follow-up in the Gilligan Island story, they asked all the pilots to go down and pre-flight the helicopters that they'd taken satchel charges and gone in and blown them up. And so I remember going down and looking at a helicopter, and it looked in pretty good shape. And so I decided to crawl under the chin bubble and look at the bottom of it, and I kept inching myself back under the chin bubble. And I looked next to me, and there was a satchel charge right next to my head. And so I said, well, that's the name of that tune. So we got out of there. But, you know, that was just an aside. A couple of my stories, got several, but the Ashaw Valley was probably one of the biggest ones. We lost, I think, 15 or 16 helicopters within the first, half an hour. Of the
Yeah,
assault.
you know what? A lot of people don't, and that's one thing your friend Phil was telling me about, how you lost so many helicopters. I don't think people realized how many helicopters got shot down and stuff. You see the war movies and stuff, and you don't see that. You know what I mean? But that's a lot of helicopters.
We lost more helicopters in that one day than the Army has lost at any time. So anyway, long story short, the landing zone was on the top of a ridge line, and so as a gunship, we're orbiting the ridge line, and when you're right on the ridge line, you're right on the trees, so it wasn't a big deal. But when you come off the edge of that ridge line, you got 200 or 300 foot of altitude, and that's where they kill you. And so we were really receiving fire and hit one of the rockets, and the rocket took off and exploded. And so we're looking for a place to land because there's no place to land out there. It was all jungle other than the B-52 strikes that cleared some area. And so we're looking for a place to land, and the crew chief says, "Sir, we're on fire." And that's not what you want to hear in a helicopter. You don't have a parachute, And so we're looking for a place to land, and I look back at him, and he's out on his bungee cord, looked like he's getting ready to jump. And so I said, okay, here we go, we got a place to land. So we went in and landed next to this bomb crater, and we jumped out of the helicopter into the bomb crater, and I was telling the crew where to put the M60s to give us protection. And there was a line of fully clad NVA troops coming down the ridge line towards us.
I'm not going to. I don't want to interrupt, but you say crew. How many are on the
We had
crew?
two co-pilot, pilot, and door gunner. And crew
There's three
chief.
of you.
Four. Yeah. So, and the two guys in the back did the M60s, so they were down there. And I happened to be carrying an AK-47. And the reason I was carrying it is because the M16s were jamming all the time. And you could drop an AK-47 in a puddle and pick it up and it'll still shoot. And it comes with a 30-round clip, and I had 3 30-round clips taped together. And we were really getting hammered on. It was almost like your infantry, and I'm a pilot, I don't know what the hell I'm doing down there. But so long story short, we're trying to figure out what's going on, and we look up, and there's not a helicopter in the sky to come get us. And then all of a sudden, and we're shooting, to try and protect ourselves. And a helicopter came in and got right next to us and then rolled over and took off because he thought he lost his hydraulics. And it was a classmate of mine, and we still talk. And anyway, he came back around and landed. We all jumped in the helicopter, and he took off. I was on a third clip of the 30-round clips.
Just in time.
Just in time. And so that was that day, and we got out of there. So that was kind of a poignant situation that we survived. That was on April 19th, 1968, the first day of the Ashaw. And forgive my voice. I don't know. I started losing it a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I have that problem too. I think it's the, what do you call me? Allergies.
allergies.
See, that's why she is my assistant.
So here comes the commercial. We were flying gunships and flew into areas that, well, I'll tell you one quick story. My good friend that was my co-pilot a lot of the times and the other section leader, he would volunteer us for everything.
And he's a friend.
And he's a friend. And we still talk, and I said, damn it, do not ever volunteer us for anything.
Yeah.
So he volunteered us to support the Green Berets Special Forces out of Hue Phu flying into Laos, which nobody did. And the one quick story of that, we had several, but this one, they needed 15 minutes of gun support on the landing zone that they were going to. And it was so far into Laos that we needed 3 sections of guns, because once we got there, we only had 5 minutes of fuel and had to take off and fly back. So the second section would go out and relieve the first and vice versa. So anyway, those are the kinds of stuff and they say, take all your IDs off, and if you make it to this grid coordinate by 1800, we'll get you. If you can't, you're on your own.
Yeah, we don't know you.
So anyway, that was that story. And I guess the big one, which, and there's a little humor in this, not much, but we took off with a fully loaded gunship. And the toughest thing about flying a gunship is taking off. You have to bump, you can't hover because it's too heavy. So you bump down until you get what they call translational lift, where the front of the blades start getting new air and it gives you a lift. But to get to that point, you got to bounce it. And so it was really, really a difficult, well, they're all tough, but we got off. And we got out over this area on the trees heading to west, and the engine quit. And so...
That's not good.
No. In fact, I can still see the sight picture of us going in.
Yeah.
And I'm flying it, and new guy in the other seat. And so what you do with a helicopter is you go into auto rotation, bring it down, and then pop it, and so you land. When we were on our way in, I saw this little ravine in front of us, so if we hit the ravine, we're dead. So I scooted it over the ravine, and it hit so fast that it flipped over, and I hit my head on the armor plating, my helmet flew off, and I was knocked out, hanging upside down in a gunship that was exploding. And and I was out. Everything was blown up, and so the crew got out and were afraid to come back and get me because it was exploding, and I'm upside down.
Yeah.
I looked dead anyway. So they left. When I came to and crawled out, the evac ship was on about a 300-foot takeoff. And so...
So they're leaving, and you're looking up, and they're
leaving me there, yeah.
wow.
And I can't blame them. I mean,
No, I understand.
blowing up gunship.
Yeah, I understand.
So the big thing we were afraid of up there is being captured. We were right up near the DMZ. And so I had the only gun I had was my little .38, which wasn't worth anything. So I crawled out of the airplane and started crawling through some elephant grass and tripped and fell down. And all of a sudden I felt hands all over me, and I said, I'm captured. And it was a squad of Marines that had made it down off a ridgeline. They'd seen the crash, got me, and evac me out in their Marine evac helicopter. So as far as the Army knew, I was dead. I was gone. So they evac me to their aid station, and I remember it very well. I'm laying on a slab, guy sewing up my head, another guy sewing up my arm, and the guy sewing up my arm held it up in front of me, and he says, "What does that look like, sir?" And I said, that looks pretty good. He says, good, that's the first one I've ever done unassisted.
On the job training.
So anyway, I had a big bandage around my head. My arm was in a sling, and the Marines just let me go, let me walk out of their aid station. So I walked out to the flight line, and I saw this Huey spinning up, and I walked up to it, and I said, can you guys drop me off at Camp Evans in the operations? And they said, yeah, of course. I mean,
Is this a Marine helicopter or an Army?
no, it's an Army.
Army chopper.
Yeah, and I had blood all over me. It was all superficial, but I mean, they got the point.
Yeah.
And so they flew me right back down to my operations in front of the operations tent, dropped me off. And I walked up the stairs, and the first sergeant was behind his desk at his typewriter typing up my killed in action report. And he looked up and he saw me. And he almost fainted. I mean,
But yeah.
and then I made the tour around the country, around the company, and everybody has what they call a short timer's bunker, where you go down underground
Yeah.
before you leave, and they were all filling that in, and it was quite poignant. But anyway, so that was that day,
That's quite the day.
and yeah, you know, every helicopter pilot, and I'll let you go. Every
You're
helicopter.
going to let me go. I ain't going anywhere.
Every helicopter pilot has stories, maybe not as good as that one, but you know,
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what. I've interviewed quite a few of you guys, both Marines and Army, and I have utmost respect for you guys because you're right. You all have a story, and
Yeah.
they're not. You know, they could be tough, you know, but it takes a special breed to do what you guys did.
well,
But anyway, you brought this along,
yes.
and you want to tell me what this is, and
Well, this is a
we're gonna
daily
go over
log.
it?
It's a daily log sheet. And it says 1235 aircraft 173, comma, KC-31, which is King Cobra 31, which is me, crashed and burned. Co-pilot, crew chief, gunner are out. Can't find KC-31, which is me. Aerial rocket artillery was at the crash. Negative further word. And then the next line is 1310. Further word from KC-13, which it should have been 31, 178, had mechanical failure. AC, which is aircraft commander, which was me, and crew chief burned in aircraft. And that was that day.
That's quite the day. You had some burns too?
No. No, I don't know how. I mean, you know, there's a couple of those things that we walked away from that were unsurvivable. You just, you know, somehow you get out of them, and you don't know why. I didn't have a burn on me, but it was blowing up, rockets were exploding, and a lot of fuel.
Well, a good man up there, he had
Oh,
a plan
yeah,
for, he
you
had a
bet.
plan for you. And
You
you know
bet.
what?
Yep.
I think it was to get on salute. Maybe not. But I'm glad you're here. I had a story you wanted to talk about. We'd like you to talk about a guy who got a helicopter that came down.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I spent about an hour on the phone with him this morning. That's how close we still are. And we were in flight school, basic, in Vietnam together. And he, I won't mention his name, but he, when he first got into Vietnam, they came up with a new Guns a Go-Go. I don't know if anybody's heard of that, but it was the helicopters that had the twin blades, and they came up with they armed them with 50 caliber machine guns, 20 millimeter flexible guns, and he was part of that first section. And anyway, went on and distinguished himself all over the place, and then signed up for a second tour. And the day that I was shot down in the Ashaw, he was shot down in the northern end of the Ashaw, same day,
Wow.
with a 37 millimeter radar controlled anti-aircraft weapon. And he was flying a Chinook, and it just exploded. In fact, there was a medical doctor out in the field tending to the troops, and he had some kind of a Super 8 camera or something, and it was a ball of fire coming straight down, and he filmed the whole thing. And of course, we hadn't seen the video then. We didn't see it till a lot later, but we thought Wade was dead. Oop, said his name. Anyway, thought he was dead. And the story goes, he was explaining to me that they were just totally a ball of fire going in. And two of his crew jumped out at 600 feet. That's how bad it was. And so...
Did they survive?
No.
600 feet, I would think, yeah.
No. So they came down and hit. And so anyway, I don't know what part I should say next, but he was evac to Japan, and his hair had been on fire. He was on fire.
Yeah.
And and he was telling the story, and he said, you know, you're going to have to shave every day, and if you don't shave, we'll shave you. So you need to shave yourself. So anyway, about 3 or 4 months later, he walks into the tent, and you couldn't tell a scar on him. He was just in perfect condition. And I said, Wade, how did you, because by then we'd seen what was going on. I said his name again. I said, how did you get out of that helicopter? He says, we hit so hard, the front of it just fell off, and we got up and walked straight out.
Wow.
And that was the same day I was shot down in the south end.
So when he went down, there was another guy with him, two of them, right?
Well, as pilot, co-pilot, and I don't know how much of a crew a Chinook carries, but I would say at least 2 or 3.
So 2 or 3 of them walked out.
Well, no, 2 jumped out and died.
Jumped out, yeah.
And I think there was one other he told me about that when they got out, they heard something behind him and he ran past them. But, and that's what was going on over there. I mean, you know, nobody can explain it. Nobody can, you know, you don't, there was one bottom line that we all adhered to without question, is that nobody stays behind.
Right.
You go get them, no matter what you have to do.
Yep.
And it was like blood. I mean, that's how it worked. So that was that.
That's an amazing story, my friend. So how many missions you think you did? You keep track of how many missions?
Yeah, somewhere. You know, they call them sorties.
Sorties, yeah. How many?
And, you know, I remember the longest day I ever flew in a slick was 11 hours and 35 minutes. And that's not turning the engine off. You go in and refuel, go back out, refuel, go back out. And, you know, we all got Distinguished Flying Crosses, Purple Hearts, and, you know, the other stuff. But that was not why we were there. You know, that just was an adjunct of us being there and going through what we went through. But, and as I mentioned, I talked to the guy with the Chinook this morning. We're still like blood brothers, better. And, you know, you can't explain it. When we talk, it's like it happened 10 minutes ago instead of 50 years ago.
Yeah, I can understand that because it's, you know, it's something that.
Bond that will never be broken.
That's
Yep.
right, yeah.
Yep.
So you, how many years you do in the Army?
4.
4? You enlisted, you said.
I enlisted and then.
Did you enlist for 4 or did you?
No, what they do is I agreed to 3 years after graduating from flight school.
Uh-huh.
And they used every means that they could possibly think of to get me to go back to Vietnam. And I had been shot down twice, had 2 engine failures, a tail rotor failure, and I was pretty much done with it.
Yeah, your luck could run out, you know?
in a 12-month period.
Yeah,
So
wow, that's amazing.
yeah.
That's amazing.
And so, so I was supposed to get out in June of 70, but when they knew they weren't going to get me back, they let me out in January of 70. So they gave me a 6-month drop, and I appreciated that.
What did you do when you got out, Jim?
As I mentioned, I had been in a ski show in Florida, and I didn't really have any direction at that time, so the guys from the ski show in it had moved to California, and they called me and asked me if I wanted to join it again, and I said sure. So I went out there and was in the ski show for a couple of years, and then my career basically was that I wound up being a principal in a mortgage banking company. And
That's quite a...
yeah, it was quite a switch. And
Yeah.
I was always a nerd, so I was very heavily into computers and things, and I computerized the whole company. And then we took on another partner. There was only two of us. Three of us. And then there was some dissension in the partnership, and so one of them left. And I said, I'm done. So I got out of that and got into computing field. And did a lot of tech work with some big major medical companies, and then finally decided to start my own company. And it's a data recovery company, crashed hard drives and servers. And I was telling your partner there, we do everything from single moms and students on up to the U.S. government. We've done some huge ones, very highly level classified stuff. And I met my niche. I really enjoyed it. So I'm slowly extracting myself from that. I still own the company, but we're making some changes for the positive. So that's me.
Yeah, and you live down here near the forest, or in the forest.
Right.
And you go back to, you're a snowbird, right? Like,
Oh, no. We're down in South Florida in Oakland Park.
yeah.
In fact, my wife is down there now, and we go back and forth between the two houses. We've owned this house
So
for...
both houses are in Florida?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were a snowbird, but you're not a snowbird.
Ocala is as far north as we
So
want to go.
you're like me, a damn Yankee.
Right.
We came down and stayed. Yeah.
Yeah, and so we're very, very fortunate, and we have a nice house down there, and the one up here we just love, and so...
Peaceful and quiet.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Compared to South Florida, I told you I
Oh.
graduated from high school down there.
Yeah, yeah.
Now you get cussed out in 7 languages, so... Anyway,
Well, I'm glad to hear, I mean, you're living a good life because you earned it.
well, God bless you, thank you. We appreciate it.
You know, and,
We never look at it that way, but,
Well, since you're a computer guy and everything, I expect you to look at every episode of Central Florida Salute.
you got it, pal.
All right. Is there anything you want to add to this? Or you think we pretty much wrapped it up?
I think it's wrapped. I mean, I could go on and on as any helicopter pilot could, but those are the poignant points. Those are the important ones. And I'm still breathing.
Yeah, you're doing well. I mean, and I'm glad to see it. You earned it.
Well, thank you.
So, we're gonna-
Every pilot I flew with over there earned it.
Yeah, like I said before, I told you, your friend Phil over here, that I've had several pilots, helicopter pilots, a Marine and Army, and one who was a crew member. So I try to relate, but I can't really relate because I can't, I can't imagine.
Nobody can.
Yeah, you can't.
Nobody can. You can't empathize that kind of
unless you've
stuff.
actually walked a walk. You can talk the talk, and I did not walk that walk, but I am impressed, and I've been honored to meet you and Phil and all the others.
Well, thank you,
And
sir.
I'm glad we get this on YouTube because people need to know why we're free is because of people like you.
Well, God bless you. We did what we were asked to do, that's all.
Okay, brother.
Thank you, brother.
Welcome home.
Thank you.
Well, we're going to say goodbye, and you saw how we did this, right?
I did.
Okay. To all our veterans out there, active military and their families, we salute you for all you do. Till next time.
Thank you, sir.